When the stone began to think you know, someone once asked me with a hint of skepticism, if consciousness creates reality, then why does a stone remain a stone, no matter what you believe? It's a clever question, but it hides a deeper illusion, because the stone isn't a stone until we name it so. Before humanity arrived with our language and categories, there were no stones, no sand, no mountains, only a dance of invisible energy, swirling and vibrating in endless patterns. The universe wasn't solid then. It was music, pure movement of consciousness, exploring itself. And that's where our story begins. Long ago, the French pilot and author Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, yes, the man who later wrote The Little Prince, crashed his plane in the Sahara Desert, lost, dehydrated, half dreaming between life and death. He encountered what he described as a vision, a mysterious boy from another realm, speaking to him about the invisible nature of existence. That encounter changed him. It turned survival into revelation. He realized that life isn't a cruel desert to cross, but a dialogue between soul and creation itself. And maybe that's true for all of us. We live in a world so quick to call things real or unreal. But what if the world you see is not a fixed picture, but a reflection of your inner vibration? Every moment, consciousness paints reality through your perception. You don't see what is, you see what you are resonating with. Just as a radio can only pick up the frequency it's tuned to, you can only perceive the version of the world that matches your vibration. So the question isn't whether the stone is real. The question is, what level of reality are you tuned into? Look at nature, it's quietly revealing this secret every day. A sunflower turns its face to the light. A tree bends and grows around an obstacle. Rivers find their way to the sea without ever pushing or planning. Every form of life is guided by an intelligence that doesn't think, but knows. That same intelligence breathes through you. Your heart beats, your cells repair. Your immune system defends you without needing your conscious command. Awareness doesn't live only inside the skull. It moves through everything. It's the silent field that connects every heartbeat, every particle, every wave of light. Science, interestingly, has started to whisper the same thing. At the quantum level, particles behave differently when they're observed. They seem to know they're being watched. It's called the observer effect, and it suggests that matter and mind aren't separate at all. Reality bends under the gaze of awareness, like light bending through water. We're beginning to understand what mystics have always known. The world doesn't exist first, and then you perceive it. You and the world are co-creating each other moment by moment. Your beliefs are the blueprints. Your emotions are the energy that animates them. And what you call reality is the living sculpture shaped by those unseen hands. Think of words. They're just vibrations in the air, meaningless on their own. Yet they can start wars, heal wounds, inspire revolutions, or open hearts. The power was never in the sound. It was always in the consciousness interpreting it. The same applies to money, nations, traditions, even the identities we wear. All are shared dreams solidified through collective agreement. We've simply forgotten that we're the dreamers. The scientist Carl Pribram once compared the mind to a hologram. In a hologram, every small fragment contains the image of the whole. He suggested that consciousness works the same way. Each of us holds the entire universe encoded within. Your mind isn't trapped in your brain. Your brain is simply the receiver, the instrument tuned to a much greater broadcast. That's why some people can recall things they never learned, or have near-death experiences where awareness continues while the brain flatlines. Consciousness doesn't emerge from matter. It expresses through it. We are waves of an ocean that thinks, and yet, most of us live trapped inside a tiny word. I. The I that must control, must plan, must prove. But this sense of a separate self, this idea that I am here and the world is out there, is an illusion. Modern neuroscience shows that certain regions of the brain create that illusion of separation. When those regions go quiet through deep meditation, mystical experience, or even moments of awe, people report a profound realization. There is no me in world, there is only consciousness, flowing as both. The ancient Vedic sages called this the union of Atman and Brahman, the individual soul recognizing itself as the universe. When the illusion of separateness dissolves, suffering softens too. Because the one who struggled was never real. It was just consciousness, pretending to be small. History has always been shaped by those who understood this law, even if they didn't have the language for it. Tesla said he saw his inventions fully formed in his mind before building them. Joan of Arc heard voices that led her to command armies. Martin Luther King Jr. dreamed a vision so strong, it reshaped a nation's consciousness. They weren't imagining things, they were tuning in. Focused consciousness has the power to bend probability itself. Have you ever noticed how when you're deeply aligned, when your heart, your mind, and your energy all say, yes, life seems to flow effortlessly. Opportunities appear. People show up. The right words fall from your lips. That's not luck. That's resonance. And here's the paradox. The more you try to force life, the more it resists. The more you allow, the more it unfolds. A river doesn't strain to reach the sea. It simply follows the pull of gravity. In the same way, when you relax the grip of control, a higher intelligence begins to move through you. It's what some call the art of allowing. You stop trying to push reality into shape and instead become a conscious participant in its flow. The greatest creative act is not effort, it's surrender. Because surrender isn't weakness. It's the recognition that you are not separate from the universe that's breathing you. So, when you look at a stone again, remember this. You are the awareness that gives that stone its meaning. You are the dreamer, looking at your own dream. The stone is thinking through you, just as you are seeing through it. Reality is not a mirror reflecting your life. It's a canvas responding to your brush. And the paint is vibration. When your heart softens, the world softens. When you choose peace, peace appears around you. And when you begin to live from the quiet, knowing that you are one with everything, life stops being a puzzle to solve and becomes a poem to experience. So breathe. Let the river carry you, instead of fighting the current. Let go of the need to prove, to control, to fix. You are already the field in which the stars are shining. You are not in the universe. The universe is in you. And maybe, just maybe, the moment you truly realize that, even the stones will start to think with you. 1. Consciousness as the living web of all life. There's a quiet intelligence moving through everything. You can see it if you pause long enough to watch the world without naming it. A tree, for instance, doesn't think its way toward the sun. It simply grows in that direction, drawn by something it cannot explain. The sunflower doesn't analyze the light or question where it comes from. It turns, almost reverently, toward warmth. And deep beneath the forest floor, roots and fungi weave a vast and ancient network, a kind of subterranean internet where trees share nutrients, send warnings, and even care for the weaker ones among them. None of these beings have language or reason the way we do. Yet they act with an unmistakable awareness. Not a human kind of awareness, one that plans, labels, and worries, but a simpler one, purer and more honest. A knowing that doesn't need to be told what to do. It's the same force that tells the tide when to rise, the birds when to migrate, and the seed when it's time to split open and become something entirely new. That same intelligence is within you, right now. Without your permission or control, your heart keeps beating. Your lungs fill and empty in rhythm with the unseen breath of the earth. Your cells repair themselves. Your blood carries oxygen. Your immune system fights for your life while you sleep. This orchestration isn't happening because the you in your head is commanding it. It happens because consciousness, the great field of awareness that permeates everything, is moving through you, just as it moves through the rivers and the roots. We've been taught to think of consciousness as something trapped inside the skull, like a candle burning behind our eyes. But that's too small, too limited for what it truly is. Consciousness doesn't live in the brain. It uses the brain as one of its instruments. It's like the wind using the flute to make music. The flute doesn't produce the wind. It simply gives it a way to be heard. When we see ourselves as isolated minds, we suffer. We become lonely inside our own skin, convinced that we're separate from the trees, the ocean, the people we love. But separation is a misunderstanding of perception. The truth is quieter. Simpler life is not happening to you. It's happening through you. You are not apart from the web. You are one shimmering strand of it. Every heartbeat, every exhale, every glance you share with another person is a pulse within that vast, breathing network. When you stand beneath a tree, it is not you and it is one consciousness greeting itself in two different forms. The same awareness that moves the sap upward is the awareness that allows you to feel wonder. If you could see energy instead of objects, you would see nothing but movement, waves within waves. Like the ocean folding into itself, the boundary between you and the world would disappear. There would only be vibration, resonance, exchange. You breathe out carbon dioxide. The tree breathes it in. The tree exhales oxygen. You take it into your lungs. This is not metaphor, it's literal. You and the tree are engaged in an eternal conversation of breath. And yet, most of the time, we forget. We rush through life thinking we must control everything: our careers, our bodies, our destinies, as though existence itself would collapse without our constant supervision. But the truth is humbling. The same force that turns galaxies also beats your heart. The same intelligence that orchestrates seasons also guides your healing. When you understand this, control softens into trust. Think of a bird perched on a branch before flight. It doesn't rehearse the physics of its wings. It doesn't calculate the trajectory of the air currents. It simply opens itself to the wind and lets something larger carry it. That's what harmony with consciousness feels like, not effort, but alignment, not control, but cooperation. I once met an old man who had lived most of his life by the ocean. He told me that when he was young, he used to wrestle with the waves, trying to outswim them, to master their power. The sea always won. He said with a smile, "It took me years to realize it wasn't a fight I could win. It was a rhythm I could join." That's the moment consciousness stops being a concept and becomes a lived truth. When you stop fighting life and start listening to its rhythm, you become part of something infinite. We're all surrounded by this intelligence every second. But it's subtle. It doesn't shout. It whispers through synchronicities, through sensations in the body, through the calm knowing that arises when you stop overthinking. Sometimes it speaks through loss, through illness, through heartbreak, those moments when the ego crumbles and something deeper begins to breathe. Because consciousness doesn't waste anything. Even pain becomes a path back to connection. Have you ever stood in silence long enough to feel the pulse beneath your skin? That subtle hum isn't just biology. It's the sound of the universe moving through you. The same vibration that hums in a distant star is humming in your blood. When you really grasp that, not as an idea, but as a direct experience, loneliness becomes impossible. You begin to sense that you are being held by something vast and tender. That's what I mean when I say consciousness is the shared web of all life. It's not a mystical abstraction. It's as practical as breathing, as intimate as your heartbeat, as real as the soil beneath your feet. It's the awareness that sees through every pair of eyes, that flows through every form. When you begin to honor that intelligence, not just in spiritual moments, but in the way you walk, eat, listen, and speak, something remarkable happens. The world around you starts to respond differently. The trees seem more alive. People soften in your presence. Even the air feels warmer. Why? Because you've stopped living as an isolated mind and started vibrating as part of the whole. This is not about believing in anything. It's about remembering that the same consciousness that carved valleys and spun galaxies is here, breathing with you right now. It never left. You never lost it. You only stopped noticing. So the next time you feel small or disconnected, place a hand over your heart. Feel it beating without your effort. Realize that it is not your heart. It's the universe pulsing in a form called you. And just for a moment, let that truth sink in. You belong to everything, and everything belongs to you. There's no need to strive for enlightenment when you are already made of light. The journey isn't about becoming more conscious, it's about relaxing into the consciousness that has been here all along. And when you do, even the simplest moments become sacred. The sound of rain on the window, the warmth of a cup in your hands, the quiet smile of a stranger. These are all fragments of the same divine intelligence, whispering one eternal message: you are not alone. That message doesn't need belief, it only needs presence. Because presence itself is consciousness. It is life noticing itself through you. And you, at last, remembering that you have always been part of its endless, breathing web. 2. The universe as a quantum mirror. If you've ever stared into still water, you know the feeling. The world above and the world below blur into one. The reflection is perfect until you move. Then everything ripples. Reality behaves in much the same way. It mirrors what is observing it. And the moment you look, the moment awareness touches it, the image shifts. Modern physics calls this the observer effect. At the quantum level, particles do not exist in a fixed state until they are observed. They live in a field of pure potential, existing as waves of possibility. When consciousness looks, the wave collapses into form. In other words, awareness doesn't simply record reality, it creates it. It's a strange thought, but maybe not so strange when you start to see how it plays out in daily life. You notice how your mood colors a room before you even speak, how fear changes the way time moves, stretching moments into eternity, while love makes everything shimmer and expand. These are not coincidences, they're microcosmic examples of the same principle. Consciousness and matter are woven together like breath and body. We are not walking through a pre-written world. We are moving through a sea of infinite probabilities. And our attention, the quality of it, not just its direction, chooses which version of the world crystallizes around us. Imagine life as a quantum mirror. It doesn't reflect your face, it reflects your frequency. If you stare into it with distrust, you'll see a universe that hides its beauty from you. If you look with wonder, you'll find wonder everywhere. The mirror never judges, it simply returns your vibration. This is not wishful thinking or blind optimism. It's physics at its most intimate. Reality is responsive, participatory, alive. The cosmos isn't a machine of cold mechanisms. It's a field of awareness, learning to see itself through you. When you think of it this way, the world becomes less like a stage you walk across and more like a dance floor. Every movement you make sends ripples through the floorboards of existence. Your emotions are steps, your thoughts are rhythms, and the music is the vibration of the universe, responding in kind. You can test this for yourself. Notice how when you expect hostility, you often meet it. When you anticipate kindness, doors open. When you carry shame, you find mirrors for it everywhere. But when you hold even a quiet confidence, the world softens around you. The particles of your day rearrange themselves according to the observer you are being. I used to think life was random, an accidental swirl of forces, indifferent to my desires. But the more I watched carefully, the more I saw the reflection staring back. When I was angry, life felt cruel. When I became gentle, Life seemed to breathe easier too. The universe was not mocking me. It was teaching me its language. The language of resonance. Resonance doesn't shout. It hums. It's the tone beneath your thoughts. The emotional frequency beneath your words. You can say I'm fine 100 times, but if your vibration hums with fear or resentment, reality will respond to that instead. The mirror listens to the music, not the lyrics. Every belief you hold is like a tuning fork vibrating in the field of possibility. When you believe in lack, your fork resonates with lack, and you draw matching echoes from the quantum field. When you believe in enoughness, in beauty, in grace, you align with those frequencies instead. This isn't superstition, it's coherence. The universe favors coherence. It amplifies what is internally consistent and lets the rest dissolve back into potential. That's why transformation rarely happens through force. You can't argue your way into peace. You have to tune yourself to it. When the vibration within you changes, the mirror adjusts instantly. Think of it like adjusting a radio dial. The station you want has always been there, broadcasting endlessly. If you can't hear it, it's not because it doesn't exist. It's because you're tuned elsewhere. Consciousness works the same way. You are the receiver, the transmitter, and the listener, all at once. I learned this the hard way. There was a time when I lived entirely in my head, anxious, analytical, convinced that reality was something to control or outsmart. But no matter how tightly I tried to manage life, it slipped through my fingers. The more I pushed, the more it resisted. It wasn't until I began to soften to observe without judgment that something changed. The world didn't become perfect, but it became clearer, as if the mirror had been wiped clean. It's not that consciousness suddenly gained power, it's that I stopped misusing it. I stopped demanding that the mirror reflect a different face, and instead began to change the expression I was offering it. There's a quiet relief that comes when you realize you don't need to fix the world to feel whole. You just need to stop projecting fragmentation onto it. The moment you do, you begin to see the pattern, the hidden symmetry in chaos, the purpose in pain, the intelligence beneath every unfolding. Quantum physics only confirms what mystics whispered for centuries. Reality is participatory. We are not separate spectators, we are co-authors of every page that turns. And the most beautiful part, you don't have to believe this to make it work. It's already happening. You are already creating through observation, through attention, through emotion. The only question is whether you'll do it unconsciously by default, through fear, or consciously, through presence. When you approach life as a field of infinite potential, rather than a rigid structure, curiosity replaces anxiety. You stop asking, "What if this goes wrong?" and start wondering, "What might this become?" The energy shifts from defense to dance. I once watched a child blow soap bubbles into sunlight. Each bubble caught a different color, depending on the angle of light. And for a moment, the air was full of floating rainbows. That's the quantum universe, a field of bubbles shimmering with potential. Each one could burst or soar, depending on the gentleness of the breath that created it. Consciousness is that breath. You are that child. So when life feels solid and unyielding, remember, it's only appearing that way because your awareness has stopped moving. Look again. Look softer. Observe not with judgment, but with wonder. The act of gentle observation changes everything. The universe doesn't need your control, it needs your attention. Not the narrow attention of fear, but the open gaze of presence. Because whatever you observe with love begins to reorder itself around that frequency. Reality is a mirror. Yes, but it's not a cold reflection. It's a living one. It's responsive, compassionate, intimate, and it will always, unfailingly, show you who you are being in this very moment. So, look carefully, not to critique, but to understand. Look until you see that the observer and the observed are not two. The moment you realize that, the mirror dissolves, and all that remains is consciousness gazing at itself, endlessly becoming. 3. Consciousness and vibration, the true language of the universe. There is a silence beneath all sound, a quiet pulse that moves through everything that exists. It's not a silence of emptiness, but one of rhythm, of vibration. The universe doesn't speak in words. It speaks in frequencies. Every feeling, every thought, every breath you take carries a vibration. And that vibration is what the cosmos responds to. You see, the language of energy is not spoken. It's felt. You can't fake it, and you can't hide it. You may tell the world, "I'm fine." But if your inner vibration hums with fear or grief, the universe listens to that instead. It's not judging you. It's simply translating your inner frequency into experience. Think of life as a vast radio field. Every possibility, every version of reality, exists as a different frequency, just like different stations on a dial. You can only hear the one you're tuned to. Love, compassion, gratitude, these are high frequencies. Fear, shame, resentment, these vibrate lower. When your inner frequency shifts, the world around you shifts too. This isn't some poetic metaphor. It's how reality functions at the most fundamental level. Energy resonates with energy, and resonance is what binds everything together. I remember a time when I was living in constant anxiety. I was always trying to fix things, prove myself, stay ahead of life. On the surface, I said I wanted peace, but inside, my vibration was chaos. I didn't realize that peace isn't something you achieve. It's something you tune into, like a musician learning to hear the pitch of a note. I had to learn to hear the vibration beneath my thoughts. When I finally stopped struggling, when I simply listened, I began to sense it, a hum that's always been there, the heartbeat of life itself. And when I allowed myself to match that rhythm, life started to respond differently. People who once mirrored my stress began to mirror calm. Circumstances that once felt heavy began to open. I didn't change the world. I changed my frequency, and the world echoed it back. That's the real power of vibration. It's not about pretending to feel good all the time. It's about honesty. If you feel pain, let yourself feel it fully without resistance. Pain is just energy, asking to move. When you allow it to pass through without judgment, it transforms. What you suppress becomes stagnant. What you feel becomes light. Vibration is the emotional language of consciousness. It's how the unseen communicates with the seen. That's why animals sense our moods before we speak. Why a room can feel heavy after an argument or peaceful after prayer. Energy is always broadcasting, always translating awareness into matter. And because of that, your emotional state isn't just personal, it's creative. Every thought, every reaction, every sigh adds something to the collective field of humanity. Imagine the planet as a single instrument, each of us a string. When enough of us vibrate in harmony through compassion, presence, or even quiet acceptance, the entire instrument begins to play a different song. But the most beautiful truth about vibration is its gentleness. You don't need to force it, manipulate it, or control it. You simply need to feel it. Like tuning a violin, subtle adjustments matter more than effort. A small shift in your inner tone can change everything. There's a difference between reacting and resonating. Reaction is automatic. It's what happens when the mind is triggered. Resonance is deliberate. It's what happens when the heart listens before it speaks. To live in resonance is to move through the world with a soft steadiness, knowing that what truly matters is not what you do, but the energy from which you do it. When your actions rise from fear, even good intentions can create confusion. But when your actions rise from alignment, from the frequency of love, they carry a power that extends far beyond words. That's why a kind look, a gentle gesture, or a moment of forgiveness can shift someone's entire day. Energy transfers instantly. Vibration travels faster than thought. You might wonder, if vibration is so powerful, why don't I just stay in high frequency all the time? The answer is simple. You don't need to. Life isn't a single note. It's a symphony. The lows give texture to the highs. The purpose of darkness isn't to punish you. It's to help you hear the music more clearly. The key is to remember that you are the one holding the instrument. You can always return to harmony. When you stop trying to escape your emotions and start listening to their frequency, you begin to understand them differently. Anger, when felt with awareness, reveals where you've been hurt. Fear shows where you've forgotten your trust. Sadness softens the heart, so love can enter again. Every emotion carries intelligence energy seeking integration, not rejection. The universe reads vibration, not vocabulary. It doesn't respond to what you say you want. It responds to what you feel true. If your words speak abundance, but your vibration hums scarcity, the mirror of life will reflect scarcity. But when your feeling aligns with gratitude, when you vibrate as though what you desire is already present, the field begins to rearrange itself. This is the hidden mechanism behind synchronicity. You think of someone, and they call. You long for a new beginning, and suddenly a door opens. These aren't coincidences, they're reflections of your inner frequency finding its external match. There's no need to force or chase. Vibration doesn't rush. It waits for coherence. Like water finding its own level, energy naturally seeks balance. That's why patience isn't passive, it's magnetic. When you wait in alignment, you're not doing nothing. You're allowing the quantum field to catch up to your frequency. Sometimes, the most powerful shift happens when you stop trying to fix yourself. Healing isn't about becoming better. It's about becoming more in tune with what's already whole within you. The higher frequency of love doesn't need to be built. It only needs to be uncovered. I often tell people, if you want to understand vibration, look at music. When you listen to a piece that moves you, it's not just the melody, it's the resonance. The way the notes vibrate in your chest. That's how the universe communicates with feeling, not form. You are the instrument. Life is the song, and consciousness is the composer playing through you. So if you want the music of your life to change, don't fight the notes that have already been played. Simply tune your instrument anew. Let go of the noise. Let stillness become your key. Because when your inner vibration aligns with peace, the whole universe begins to harmonize around you. And in that moment, you'll realize something extraordinary. The language of creation was never spoken, it was always felt. And that's the truth. The stars have been singing since the beginning of time. 4. Language, the subtle magic of awareness. There's a strange kind of miracle hidden in something we rarely notice: the sound of a word. A word, by itself, is nothing but vibration. It's a breath shaped by the lips, a ripple through the air that lasts for barely a heartbeat. Yet that tiny ripple can make a person weep, can start a revolution, can heal a heart that has been silent for years. Language is ordinary and cosmic all at once. It's the bridge between the unseen and the seen, between energy and form. Through words, the invisible becomes audible. Thought takes on texture. Feeling becomes shape. But the real power never lives inside the word. It lives inside the awareness that gives it meaning. A single sentence can destroy or create, depending on the consciousness that speaks it. A phrase born of fear becomes a weapon. The same phrase spoken with love becomes medicine. That's the secret few. Remember, it isn't what we say that transforms the world, but the energy from which we speak. I've spent many years learning the weight of words. There was a time when I used them carelessly, trying to sound certain, clever, or strong. But words that don't carry truth always collapse. They echo hollowly, like a drum with no skin. When I began to speak less and to listen more, I discovered something extraordinary: words spoken from stillness have power far beyond volume. They don't persuade, they resonate. You see, language is not just communication, it's creation. Every culture, every civilization is built from shared stories. Money, borders, nations, religions, traditions, all of them exist because we agree on the words that hold them together. Remove the shared belief, and they vanish like smoke. That realization can be frightening at first. If everything we call real is upheld by collective agreement, what's left? But look closer, and you'll see the gift hiding inside that truth. If words built this world, then consciousness can build another. The same way a story can trap, a story can also set free. Every time humanity has evolved, it began with a shift in language. Someone dared to use words differently, to name the unnameable, to speak from a higher vision. Freedom, equality, compassion. Each of these was once just sound in the air, a fragile arrangement of letters. But consciousness breathed through them, and they became seeds that changed the course of history. That's the sacred potential of language. It doesn't just describe reality, it invites it. It opens the door for new worlds to be born. But to speak from that place, you have to understand silence. True words rise from quiet minds. When you are lost in noise, opinions, fears, the endless rehearsing of what to say, you're not really speaking, you're repeating, you're echoing borrowed thoughts. But when you let silence settle first, language flows differently. It doesn't come from you, it comes through you. I remember once sitting by my mother's hospital bed. She was too weak to talk, so we sat in silence for hours. I wanted to fill the air with comfort, to say something wise, but no words felt right. In that stillness, I realized presence was the language. When I finally whispered, "I'm here," it wasn't the phrase that mattered. It was the truth behind it. And she smiled. That moment taught me what thousands of books never could. That language is sacred only when it carries the weight of being real. Even now, I think of words as living beings. They enter the world carrying the vibration of their speaker. That's why when someone speaks with bitterness, you can feel it linger in the room long after they've gone. And when someone speaks with love, you feel lighter just being near them. We don't hear with our ears alone. We hear with our whole being. Our ancestors understood this. They treated words as spells, incantations capable of shaping reality. And in a way, they were right. To spell is to name, to define, to give form to the formless. When you call someone enemy, they become one in your perception. When you call them brother, something shifts in both of you. The label changes the lens, and the lens changes the world. But it's not only the grand declarations that hold power. It's the small phrases we use every day, the internal dialogue we repeat without thinking. I can't. I'm not enough. It's too late. These are not just thoughts, they're frequencies. Each repetition reinforces a particular vibration in the field of consciousness, building a reality that conforms to it. The same rule applies in reverse. Akayat I am capably, whispered sincerely, can begin to rewire the entire nervous system, not because of the letters, but because of the consciousness that chooses to believe them. The moment you speak truthfully to yourself, your cells listen. The body understands vibration before it understands meaning. This is why ancient traditions were careful with the words used in prayer or mantra. They knew sound shapes matter. The right word, held with the right intention, can open the mind like sunlight through a window. But the same sound, spoken without presence, is just air. You can feel this difference even in ordinary conversation. When someone says thank you mechanically, it's just etiquette. When they say it with sincerity, it changes the entire atmosphere. Gratitude isn't a word, it's a vibration of recognition. And that vibration nourishes everyone it touches. If language can create wars and end them, imprison minds, and set them free, then perhaps the most responsible thing we can do is to speak with awareness, to treat every word as a brushstroke on the canvas of collective reality. Before we speak, we might ask ourselves, does this word heal or harden? Does it bring understanding or deepen separation? There is no perfection here. We will all misspeak. But even noticing our words begins to change them. Awareness transforms language from habit into art. In this way, language becomes less about control and more about connection. It stops being a tool of the ego and becomes an expression of the soul. Words stop being cages and start being bridges. They remind us that we are not separate islands shouting across the void, but waves in one great ocean trying to remember our rhythm. When you truly understand this, you start to speak more gently. You realize you don't need to convince anyone of anything. Truth doesn't need defending, it needs living. And when it's lived, it doesn't shout. It resonates. One day, perhaps, we'll remember what words once knew, that they are sacred vessels for consciousness, meant not to dominate, but to illuminate. When used with love, they can return us to the place where communication began, not as noise, but as harmony. Until then, maybe it's enough to choose our words like we would choose the stones in a sacred path carefully, with reverence, and only when they help someone cross the river. Because in the end, words are not the point. The silence behind them is, the silence where all meaning begins and where all healing ends. And when we learn to listen to that silence, not to fill it, but to understand it, we begin to speak the way the universe speaks, through vibration, through truth, through presence that needs no translation. 5. The hologram of the mind. When Carl Pribram first proposed that the mind might function like a hologram, the world of neuroscience was stunned. It was an idea so radical, so poetic, that it felt almost blasphemous to the mechanistic view of the brain. He suggested that every small part of the brain contains the whole image of consciousness, just as every fragment of a hologram still holds the complete picture. And when you sit with that idea for a moment, it changes how you see everything. Because if each piece contains the whole, then nothing is truly separate. Not the cells in your body, not the people you meet, not even the stars you see at night. Every fragment of creation carries within it the entire universe, reflected, folded, and alive. It's easy to forget this. We move through our days feeling divided, broken, or incomplete, as though we're pieces searching for the missing parts that will make us whole again. But what if you were never broken? What if, in every breath, you already contained the entirety of existence just waiting to be remembered? I came to this realization not through theory, but through exhaustion. There was a time when I tried to fix myself endlessly through achievement, through understanding, through perfection. But the harder I tried, the more fragmented I felt. I kept searching for the source of peace, convinced it was somewhere outside me. Then one day, sitting alone in a quiet room, I felt something soften. The effort stopped, and in that stillness, a simple awareness rose up. I am not inside my body. My body is inside me. It's difficult to explain that shift in words. The world didn't change, yet everything did. The boundaries between myself and the room seemed to dissolve. I could sense that consciousness wasn't confined to my skull. It was vast, luminous, and somehow intimate. The air, the light, the sound, they were all expressions of the same field of awareness, the same intelligence that animates my breath. Pribram's holographic model describes exactly that. The brain doesn't create consciousness any more than a radio creates music. The music already exists in the air, every frequency, every melody waiting for a receiver to tune in. Your brain is that receiver, translating infinitive vibration into experience. Consciousness doesn't live inside your head, it flows through it. As sunlight flows through a window, when you begin to see life this way, Even the smallest things become sacred. A conversation with a friend, a drop of water, a memory from childhood. All of them are reflections of the same infinite source, refracted through different angles of perception. The universe, it seems, is not something out there. It's something you're projecting, participating in, and perceiving all at once. That's what a hologram really is. A relationship between light and perception. The image changes depending on where you stand. So does life. Change your position, and the picture changes not because the world shifted, but because your angle of awareness did. It's humbling to think that the same consciousness that shapes galaxies also shapes your thoughts, that within a single human being lives the echo of the cosmos. Your heartbeat isn't just a mechanical rhythm, it's a microcosmic reflection of cosmic pulse. The stars explode to create the elements that form your cells, and your awareness, this very act of noticing, is the universe remembering itself. Sometimes people ask me if this means we're all just illusions, holographic projections of some greater mind. But I think it's more tender than that. We're not illusions, we're expressions. The way a wave is an expression of the ocean, the way light is an expression of the sun. Each of us is a pattern through which the infinite becomes visible for a brief moment, before returning to itself. When you truly grasp that consciousness is the foundation of matter, not its byproduct, the hierarchy of existence flips upside down. You stop thinking of yourself as a small creature struggling to survive in a vast universe. You begin to realize the universe is arising through you. Every sensation, every perception, is a dialogue between the infinite and the finite. Matter is just slowed down light, and light is the language of consciousness taking form. And here's the quiet beauty of it: if reality is holographic, then every act of awareness, no matter how small, ripples through the whole. A single moment of kindness, a breath of gratitude, a silent forgiveness. They don't just change you, they change the field, because the field is one. That's why personal transformation is never truly personal. When you heal, something in the collective heals too. When you awaken, light floods into places that have long been dark. The hologram of the world brightens one tiny shade because of your clarity. Science, in its honest curiosity, has begun to circle back to what ancient mystics always knew, that consciousness is not an emergent property of matter. It's the ground from which matter arises. The quantum field, the holographic model, the interconnectivity of space-time. All these discoveries are modern languages describing the same old truth. We are not in the universe. The universe is in us. Sometimes I imagine what it would be like if every person truly felt this. How would we treat one another if we saw that every face carried the entire cosmos within it? How would we speak if we understood that every word ripples through the field of creation? Perhaps the wars would quiet. Perhaps we'd listen longer, hold each other softer. Maybe we'd finally stop trying to conquer the world and start marveling at it. Because you can't harm something once you realize it's part of you. The holographic mind reminds us that separation is an illusion of scale. A cell in your body may not see the whole organism, but it belongs to it completely. Likewise, you may not see the full design of the universe, but you are woven into it. Every joy and every sorrow, every birth and every death, is part of the same intricate pattern. When you see yourself as part of that pattern, life stops being a puzzle to solve and becomes a mystery to experience. You no longer chase, meaning you embody it. You begin to trust that even the darkest moments have light encoded within them, waiting to unfold when the angle of your awareness changes. And that, I think, is the gift hidden in Pribram's idea. It tells us that nothing is lost. Even when life feels shattered, every fragment still holds the whole. The image of your soul can never truly be broken. It only needs light to reveal itself again. So when you feel disconnected or small, remember this: you are not a drop in the ocean trying to find the sea. You are the ocean, momentarily remembering what it's like to be a drop. And when you return to that knowing, the boundaries dissolve, and what's left is the quiet brilliance of being the infinite, looking through your eyes, calling itself home. 6. The illusion of the separate self. There comes a point in every honest life when the question begins to whisper from the corners of silence, who am I? Really, not the roles, not the history, not the name or face, but the awareness, watching it all unfold. The question doesn't arrive as philosophy. It comes as exhaustion. After years of trying to become someone, we begin to wonder whether the someone we've been building even exists. The sense of being a separate self, an I, isolated inside this skin, is one of the most convincing illusions ever created. It feels solid, personal, precious. Yet, if you look closely, it begins to unravel. What you call you is not a thing. It's a collection of sensations, memories, and thoughts, each arising and dissolving in the vast field of awareness. Neuroscience has discovered that even this feeling of I is produced by specific regions of the brain, a survival mechanism, a kind of internal story that helps the organism navigate the world. But when those regions quiet down, as they sometimes do in deep meditation, profound love, or near-death experiences, a startling realization dawns. There is no separate self at all. It isn't frightening. It's freeing. You don't disappear. You expand. The borders melt. And suddenly, what you used to call the world is breathing you. The air, the light, the sound, they aren't outside anymore. They are you, expressing themselves in infinite forms. The ancient sages of India tried to describe this state through the language of Vedanta. Atman is Brahman. The individual soul is not apart from the universal soul. It is the universal soul, playing as an individual. The wave is not separate from the ocean. It is the ocean expressing itself as a wave. When I first heard this teaching, it sounded poetic but abstract. Beautiful, yes, but distant. Only later, after years of searching, did I understand what it truly meant. It happened one evening while sitting alone by the sea. I had been wrestling with grief, the kind that hollows you out until nothing seems real. I sat for hours watching the waves, too tired to think, too broken to pray. Then, something shifted. The horizon disappeared. The boundary between water and sky dissolved into one living blue, and for the first time, I wasn't watching the sea. I was the sea. That's the paradox of awakening. You don't gain anything. You lose what was never real. The illusion of separateness, the endless effort of being me, falls away. And in its absence, an intimacy arises that has no opposite. You realize you have never been alone. Not for a single breath. This isn't some mystical escape from the human condition. It's the deepest acceptance of it. When you see that everything, your joy, your sorrow, your failures, your triumphs, are movements of one consciousness. Life stops being a personal struggle and becomes a shared dance. You stop fighting the currents because you understand the river, and the swimmer are one. Our culture glorifies individuality, as though isolation were proof of strength. We're taught to stand apart, to compete, to build walls of self-definition. But the cost of that illusion is disconnection. The deeper we cling to the identity of me, the lonelier we become. The mind feeds on separation because it fears its own dissolution. But awareness, the real you, has no such fear. It has never been separate to begin with. Every spiritual tradition, at its heart, whispers this same truth in different languages. The Sufis call it unity with the beloved. The Buddhists speak of no self. The mystics call it divine union. Science, in its own way, is beginning to echo it too. Everything in the universe is interconnected, entangled, exchanging energy and information every instant. You don't have to be a saint or a scientist to glimpse this. Just stop for a moment and feel what it's like to truly be here. Not as an idea, not as a role, but as the awareness noticing the breath, the heartbeat, the silence beneath the noise. In that stillness, notice the I. You think you are the one who claims ownership of this experience can't be found. The moment you try to point to it, it dissolves. There's only the seeing, only the awareness itself. The separate self is like a whirlpool in water. It has shape, movement, personality, but it's never truly apart from the sea. When the current stills, the whirlpool disappears, but nothing is lost. The water remains, vast and calm. To live from that understanding is to move through the world lightly. You still play your roles. You're still a parent, a friend, a lover, a worker, but you no longer mistake the role for the reality. You begin to see others, not as them, but as other faces of the same consciousness. Compassion stops being a moral duty and becomes the most natural response. You cannot harm another without harming yourself, because there is no other. This realization doesn't make life easier in the superficial sense. You'll still face challenges, heartbreak, loss, but your relationship to them changes. Pain no longer feels like punishment. It becomes part of the unfolding, part of the great play of form, through which consciousness learns to see itself. When I lost someone I loved deeply, I thought the pain would never end. But grief has its own strange alchemy. It dissolves the boundaries the ego builds. One night, overwhelmed by absence, I sat and whispered her name, and for a moment, there was no difference between my longing and her presence. The space between us collapsed. I understood, not as belief but as direct knowing. Love doesn't end because it was never between two. Love is what remains when the illusion of two falls away. To live awake to this is to walk differently in the world. You begin to listen more than you speak. You stop needing to win arguments because you realize there's no one to win against. You find yourself forgiving more easily, not because you're trying to be good, but because resentment no longer makes sense. Who are you punishing when the one you call other is another expression of yourself? When you see through the illusion of separateness, something beautiful happens. You rediscover humility, not the kind that shrinks, but the kind that bows. You see that the universe has been breathing through you all along. You are not the author of your life, but the witness of life unfolding through your form. That realization doesn't make you passive, it makes you peaceful. Action becomes effortless because it's no longer driven by fear or pride. You move in harmony with what is, instead of fighting against it, like a leaf carried by the river. You learn to trust the flow. The self that was always trying to prove its worth begins to rest. The inner noise that used to define your identity quiets down. And in that silence, a new kind of joy emerges. Not the fleeting joy of pleasure or success, but a steady, wordless contentment. You realize you were never missing anything. You were simply dreaming of being small. The illusion of separateness is both the greatest tragedy and the greatest opportunity of being human. It allows us to experience contrast, to love, to long, to create. But the journey of consciousness is to wake up within the dream and remember the dreamer and the dream are one. And when that remembrance dawns, even for a moment, life becomes luminous again. The sky seems closer, the air feels alive. Every sound, every face, every heartbeat is recognized as sacred because it's all part of the same vast awareness that's been here from the beginning, quietly pretending to be you. So when the mind says, "I am alone," smile gently. The truth is simpler and infinitely kinder. You are not a wave lost at sea. You are the sea, dreaming for a while that you were a wave. 7. Consciousness as the creator of reality. There's a quiet moment before every act of creation when the world is still unformed, like a canvas waiting for its first stroke. In that silence, before thought becomes shape, lies the true power of consciousness. Everything that has ever existed began as a vibration in someone's awareness. A dream, a vision, a whisper that said, "What if?" Nikola Tesla once described seeing his inventions fully formed in his mind, every wire, every spark, every detail long before they existed in the physical world. He didn't build by trial and error. He built by attunement. He aligned his consciousness with the frequency of what he wished to create. And reality had no choice but to follow. Century later, Martin Luther King Jr. stood on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial and shared a dream that the world wasn't ready to believe in. Yet his words, rooted not in logic, but in vision, reshaped the collective field of human thought. His dream didn't just inspire, it manifested. It rewrote history. Because consciousness, when focused through love and unwavering faith, becomes a creative force beyond measurement. This is not magic in the childish sense. It's not about bending reality to the ego's will. It's the deeper recognition that you are reality, participating in its unfolding through your awareness. The universe doesn't respond to what you demand. It reflects what you are. Every thought, every feeling, is energy vibrating in a field that connects everything. When that energy becomes coherent, when your intention, emotion, and belief align, it organizes matter around it. Scientists have begun to observe this in subtle ways: how the observer influences quantum behavior, how heart coherence affects electromagnetic fields, how collective meditation can alter measurable crime rates. But long before science could name it, mystics already lived it. The truth is simple, though not always easy. Whatever you hold with steady focus becomes part of your world. It may not arrive in the way your mind expects, but the energy you nurture cannot vanish. It must take form somewhere. Thoughts are seeds, and consciousness is fertile ground. Most people scatter their attention like wind tossing dust, thinking one thing, feeling another, doubting in between. The result is chaos. The mind sends mixed signals into the field, and life mirrors that confusion. But when you focus gently, not with tension, but with trust, something begins to crystallize. The vibration steadies, and form begins to emerge. That's the real mechanism of miracles coherence. When your inner frequency becomes stable enough, the outer world rearranges itself to match. You've experienced this in small ways without even noticing. Think of the times you were deeply in love, when everything seemed to flow effortlessly, or when you worked with such focus that time disappeared, and events unfolded with almost supernatural ease. That state, the zone, the flow, the surrender, isn't luck. It's consciousness harmonizing with creation. When you are aligned, reality becomes responsive. People appear at the right moment. Doors open. Synchronicities multiply. The mind calls it coincidence. The heart recognizes it as resonance. But there's a subtle distinction that matters here. Creating through consciousness isn't about control, it's about communion. You don't command the universe. You collaborate with it. You don't force outcomes. You allow them to bloom from the seed of intention you've planted. Creation is not conquest, it's participation. Years ago, when I was at my lowest point, broke, lost, stripped of certainty, I began to experiment with this truth. Every morning I would sit quietly and imagine not what I wanted, but what already was. I pictured myself not as someone striving toward peace, but as someone who already embodied it. I felt the texture of that peace in my body, breathed it into being. At first, nothing seemed to change. The same struggles persisted, but something subtle began to shift. My reaction softened. My pace slowed. My heart grew keener. Then, without planning, opportunities began to appear. People, insights, pathways I couldn't have engineered. It was as if life had been waiting for me to stop pushing so it could start moving. Creation doesn't require force, it requires faith. Not blind faith, but lived faith, the kind that feels like exhaling after holding your breath too long. You don't have to know how the universe will respond. You only have to know that it will. Every great creator, from scientists to artists to mystics, has lived this truth. Einstein called imagination a preview of life's coming attractions. The poet Rumi said, "What you seek is seeking you." And both were saying the same thing. Consciousness is not passive, it's participatory. The trouble is, we've been trained to believe only what we can see. But creation begins long before the eye can register it. Reality is delayed. Light, what you experience today, was born from the vibration you carried yesterday. Change the vibration, and tomorrow must change with it. That's why despair is so heavy. It's not just an emotion. It's a frequency that closes doors before they can open. And that's why gratitude is so transformative. It's a signal of abundance that draws more abundance toward it. You don't have to think positive. You have to feel truthful. To feel gratitude not as a performance, but as recognition that you are already participating in something miraculous, existence itself. When you understand this, even failure becomes part of creation. Every dead end, every disappointment is not punishment, it's feedback. The universe showing you which frequencies you're tuning into, so you can adjust. Creation is less like magic and more like music. You don't curse the wrong notes, you retune your instrument. And the most powerful instrument you have is attention. Whatever you consistently give attention to will eventually define your experience. This is why fear seems so effective. It's powerful attention, distorted by imagination. But you can use the same mechanism consciously. Instead of imagining disaster, imagine coherence. Instead of anticipating pain, anticipate possibility. Your imagination is not a childish fantasy. It's the blueprint of creation. The subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between what's vividly imagined and what's real. It begins to organize your biology, your perception, your decisions around what you hold as true. And because your consciousness is part of the larger field, that inner alignment ripples outward until it reshapes circumstances themselves. That's why Tesla's inventions appeared. First, in his mind, they were more than ideas. They were vibrations made visible. That's why Martin Luther King's dream transformed a nation. It was more than hope. It was a collective tuning. They didn't impose their will. They matched the frequency of a reality that was waiting to be born. We are all capable of the same. Each of us is a lens through which the infinite focuses itself into form. Every time you hold a loving thought, every time you act with kindness, you are co-creating reality, not just your own, but the shared world we inhabit together. The miracle, then, is not in changing the outer world. It's in remembering that you were never separate from the power that shapes it. Creation isn't something you do, it's something you are. When you realize that, effort becomes art, désir becomes devotion. Life itself becomes a quiet conversation between you and the universe, one that says, again and again, as you believe, so shall it become. So the next time you catch yourself doubting your path, remember this: the universe is listening not to your words, but to your vibration. You are not waiting for the world to change. You are teaching it, through your awareness, what reality to create next. And perhaps that's what every miracle truly is. Consciousness remembering its own creative power and choosing, once again, to dream with love. 8. Surrender and allowing. The art of co-creation. There's a kind of power that doesn't roar. It hums quietly beneath everything alive. You can feel it when you stop trying so hard, when you exhale the need to control every outcome, every detail, every moment. That silence after surrender isn't emptiness, it's spaciousness. It's what remains when resistance finally tires itself out. Most of us are raised to believe that life rewards force. Push harder, plan better, try more. And sometimes, for a while, it even works. We achieve, We conquer. We build. But somewhere in the quiet hours between accomplishments, a deeper truth begins to whisper. The more we grip, the less we feel, the more we chase, the further peace seems to drift away. The universe doesn't move through pressure, it moves through permission. It's not coerced into cooperation, it's invited through openness. Life, like a river, flows best when we stop trying to steer it against its current. I learned this the hard way. For years, I thought surrender meant failure. I thought letting go was giving up, so I clenched onto relationships, onto dreams, onto the image of who I thought I was supposed to be. But the tighter I held, the more everything slipped through my fingers. It wasn't until I reached exhaustion, not from life, but from my own resistance to it, that I began to understand what allowing really means. Allowing is not passivity. It's not resignation or indifference. It's a quiet confidence in the intelligence that moves through all things. It's recognizing that there is a rhythm to life, far wiser than the plans we make for it. Imagine a leaf floating downstream. It doesn't control the river, but neither is it powerless. Its movement is guided by the flow, yet within that flow, it dances freely, twisting, gliding, shimmering in the sunlight. That's the essence of co-creation. It's not about commanding the universe, it's about collaborating with it. When you stop resisting what is, you become available to what can be. In that moment of surrender, a higher order begins to organize itself through you. Insight arises effortlessly. Opportunities appear, synchronicities align. It's not that you suddenly gain control, it's that you no longer need it. The masters called this state allowing. It's the art of getting out of your own way. When you relax the compulsive need to fix or direct reality, something greater begins to move through you. You become a channel, an instrument tuned to the frequency of universal intelligence. You might notice this in moments of pure creativity, when the music seems to write itself, when words flow as if whispered from somewhere deeper, when a painting unfolds beyond what your hands intended. In those moments, you disappear, and something vast takes your place. That is allowing, that is co-creation. But to reach that place, the ego must loosen its grip, and ego doesn't let go easily. It's terrified of uncertainty, because uncertainty means surrendering its imagined control. Yet the irony is that all the control we think we have is an illusion anyway. We can guide our actions, yes, but not the tides of life. We can plant the seed, but we cannot dictate the rain. The mind resists this truth because it equates control with safety. But the heart knows better. The heart knows that safety isn't found in control, it's found in trust. Trust is the language of the universe. Every sunrise, every heartbeat, every inhale is proof of it. Nothing asks your permission to keep you alive. Life just continues. Faithfully. You don't need to supervise your lungs or micromanage the stars. The intelligence that spins galaxies is the same intelligence breathing through you right now. When you begin to trust that, you start to live differently. You move slower, but with more grace. You stop trying to manifest from desperation and start creating from harmony. You begin to see that miracles aren't something you make happen, they're what happen when you stop interfering. Surrender doesn't mean apathy, it means alignment. It's saying, let this unfold through me, not by me. It's cooperation with the unseen hand that has always been guiding you. The more you surrender, the more you realize that life has never been against you. It's been waiting for you to soften, to stop fighting the current long enough to feel where it wants to take you. There's a tenderness in allowing that feels almost childlike. Children don't resist the moment, they live entirely inside it. They don't demand that life conform to their schedule. They play with whatever it brings. And because they're open, life reveals itself fully to them. To allow is to return to that innocence, not by forgetting what you've learned, but by remembering what you never lost: the capacity to trust the flow. I once watched an elderly potter shaping clay on a wheel. His hands moved slowly, almost lazily. as though the clay itself were teaching him what it wanted to become. When I asked how he knew when a piece was finished, he smiled and said, "It tells me." That's allowing the humility to listen to what's unfolding instead of imposing your will upon it. This doesn't mean you stop making choices. Choice remains. But it comes from a deeper place, not from fear or impatience, but from alignment. It's a shift from reacting to responding, from forcing to flowing. When you live in this way, even challenges become allies. The delay you once cursed reveals its hidden wisdom. The heartbreak you tried to avoid becomes the doorway to compassion. The failure that shattered your plans becomes the clearing through which your real life begins to emerge. Surrender doesn't protect you from pain, it transforms it. Pain ceases to be an enemy when you stop resisting it. It becomes energy, movement, growth. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start seeing, "This is happening through me." That's the moment you realize that surrender is not an act of weakness, it's an act of intelligence. It's the recognition that the same force that turns acorns into oaks and stars into galaxies is also guiding the unfolding of your life. Allowing is the art of remembering that you don't need to push the river. The river knows where it's going. There's an ease that arrives when you truly understand this. Not the ease of comfort, but the ease of clarity. The noise of should quiets, and you begin to hear the deeper rhythm of what is. Decisions become simpler because they no longer come from fear. Action becomes more effective because it's no longer laced with resistance. This is the subtle power of co-creation. When you stop forcing outcomes and begin trusting the flow, life starts to feel less like a battle and more like a dance. You move with it instead of against it. The rhythm leads, and you follow not blindly, but willingly, knowing that the dance itself is sacred. I often think of surrender as breathing underwater. At first, it feels impossible. You panic. You fight. But the moment you stop struggling, you realize the water is holding you, not drowning you. It's been carrying you all along. Allowing doesn't mean the end of effort. It means the end of strain. You still act, but from a place of alignment, not anxiety. You still dream, but you no longer demand. You offer your intention like a prayer, and then step aside, trusting the intelligence that choreographs stars to choreograph your path. And when you do, something miraculous happens. Life begins to flow through you as naturally as breath. The same energy that moves the tides moves your heart. The same consciousness that paints the dawn paints your days. In the end, that's what true surrender is, a return to partnership with the infinite, a recognition that you were never meant to carry the whole universe on your shoulders, because you are the universe. Learning how to trust its own rhythm. So let the river take you. Let the breath breathe you. Let the mystery unfold without demanding to know its name. The more you allow, the more you realize that life was never meant to be conquered, it was meant to be received. And when you receive it fully, without resistance, you discover the quiet miracle that was there all along. You were never steering the current. You were the current, remembering how to flow. You are the doorway of the universe. There's a moment in life when all the searching, the striving, the endless self-improvement quietly burns itself out. You stop chasing the next answer, the next practice, the next version of yourself. You sit, maybe for the first time, with the simplicity of being, and something begins to unfold, not as an idea, but as a lived knowing there is no out there. Everything you've ever looked for has always been looking through you. What we call reality isn't a stage set outside of us. It's consciousness painting itself into form. Every color, every sound, every breath is awareness seeing itself from a new angle. When you look at a tree, the tree is also looking at you, not with eyes but with being. When you feel the wind, it's not touching you, it's meeting itself through your skin. The separation has always been a misunderstanding. You are not standing in the universe like an observer in a gallery. You are the gallery, the painting, and the artist all at once. The light you see by is the same light you are made of. Each thought, each feeling, is a brushstroke on the living canvas of creation. Fear paints shadows. Love paints color. Joy gives motion. Grief gives depth. Together, they create the masterpiece called your life. It was never meant to be flawless. It was meant to be real. For a long time, I thought life was something happening to me, a series of lessons, sometimes kind, sometimes cruel. But the older I became, the more I understood life was never trying to punish or reward me. It was always trying to wake me up. Every heartbreak, every delay, every moment of awe, they were all saying the same quiet thing. Look deeper. Look again. Because when you finally see beyond the surface of things, you realize that consciousness is not watching life unfold. It is the unfolding. The world is not an external reality moving past your eyes. It is your awareness wearing infinite disguises, trying to remember itself. This is what the mystics meant when they said, "The kingdom of heaven is within." It wasn't a place. It was a perspective. The moment you stop seeing yourself as a small figure moving through a vast world and start seeing the vastness moving through you. There is no objective universe out there, ticking indifferently while you struggle to find meaning. There is only this consciousness, aware of itself through your laughter, your pain, your breath. You are not inside the cosmos. The cosmos is unfolding within your awareness. It sounds grand, but the truth is profoundly humble. You don't have to do anything special to access it. You only have to notice, to pause it, to soften, to let the noise settle until you can feel the quiet pulse beneath all things. The same pulse that moves your heart and the galaxies alike. When you begin to live from that knowing, life becomes intimate in a way words can barely touch. The morning sunlight on the wall isn't just light. It's the universe greeting you. The stranger's smile isn't random. It's the echo of your own kindness returning. The moments that once felt mundane start to shimmer with presence because you finally see them for what they are, consciousness meeting itself in 1,000 forms. There is a tenderness that comes with this realization. You stop demanding that life be perfect. You stop needing others to behave a certain way to validate your peace. You understand that everything, every encounter, every breath is part of the conversation between you and the infinite. And in that conversation, every experience is sacred. The joy and the grief, the beginning and the end, the silence and the noise, all of it is the same voice saying, "I am here. I am you." It took me years to understand that the world doesn't exist to test us. It exists to reveal us. The difficulties we face aren't punishments. They're mirrors showing us the places we've forgotten our own wholeness. Pain is not proof of separation. It's a call to deeper connection. When you resist it, it hardens. When you allow it, it transforms. I once met a woman who had lost everything: her partner, her home, her health. Yet when she spoke, her presence felt luminous. I stopped asking why, she said, and started asking what this moment is trying to show me. That shift didn't remove her pain, but it turned it into light. She had learned the secret: the universe is not against you. It is you, speaking in the only language you can understand right now. When you realize this, the boundary between you and life dissolves. You stop treating existence like a riddle to solve and start living it like a poem to experience. Every question becomes an invitation. Every challenge becomes an initiation. And the most profound act of courage is simply to say yes to what is without needing to know why. That's the essence of co-creation. It's not about mastering the laws of the universe. It's about remembering that you are one with them. The sun doesn't strain to shine, and you don't have to strain to be. Your existence is the proof of your belonging. So live as though every moment were a quiet conversation between your heart and the stars. When you feel uncertain, listen. When you feel lost, pause. The universe is always answering, but its language is subtle. It speaks in intuition, in synchronicity, in the soft pull of truth that never shouts but never stops calling. Maybe that's what awakening really is, not escaping the human story, but seeing through it, not transcending the world, but realizing the world has always been made of you. You are not the passenger of your life. You are the space in which life happens, the sky that holds every weather, the consciousness through which every experience moves. And when you live from that place, fear loses its grip. The future becomes less threatening, the past less heavy. You begin to trust the rhythm of existence, to move with its breath instead of against it. The veil between self and world thins, until all that remains is this living moment, alive and aware. The mystics had a phrase for that recognition: Tat Twam Asi, thou art that. You are the awareness in which all things appear. You are the window through which the universe witnesses itself. You are the doorway, the meeting point between the infinite and the intimate. So, the next time you look at the sky, don't see it as something above you. Feel it inside you. When you speak, remember, it is the universe learning to hear its own voice. When you love, you know, it is consciousness recognizing itself in another form. Life is not asking you to fix it or conquer it. It's inviting you to see it, to truly see it, for what it is, a reflection of your own being. You are not here to earn your place in the cosmos. You are here to remember that you already are the cosmos, momentarily shaped as a human, dreaming of stars, learning again and again how to love. So breathe softly. Let this moment be enough. The universe is looking through your eyes, listening through your ears, and feeling through your heart. And somewhere, in that eternal stillness behind every thought, it whispers, "You and I, we were never two."